PREPS.com. I'm Evan Wren, and this is the Big Country Preps Wednesday night podcast, our weekly look at the area athletic scene, what happened last week, and what's going on this week. I'm here with my partner, Dan Youngblood, via Zoom. And tonight, Dan, we got a very special guest. We've got Sweetwater head football coach, Russell Lucas.
Yeah, Coach Lucas is a favorite of yours and mine. A guy who's been around the area for a long time. Did a tremendous job at Hamlin. Had them within a hair's breadth of a state championship before taking over the Sweetwater job, and has done a good job there as well. They've got off to a really good start this year at 3-0. So I'm excited to talk to Coach about that. Got a good young nucleus as Sweetwater has had several times in the past. It looks like they've got a really bright future again. So I'm excited to talk to Coach about his team, about the trajectory of that program, and about a lot of things. It's always fun to get him on the show, and I'm glad we could today.
All right, before we jump into tonight's show, we need to thank a few of our sponsors. Let's start with For the Love of the Game broadcasting on our old friend Terry Slavens, owner of K-Lakes, 93.5 FM out of Breckenridge, 97.7 FM KATX out of Eastland, Classic Country AM 1330 out of Graham, 94.7 FM KWKQ out of Graham, KROO 1430 AM out of Breck, and KWBY 98.5 FM out of Ranger. That is For the Love of the Game broadcasting. Also, Rob Durham, sales consultant at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac up in Breckenridge. If you're in the market for a vehicle, new or used, give Rob a shot. He's one of the nicest guys you'll ever want to meet. Call him at 254-559-2266. That's Rob Durham up at Bear Chevrolet Buick Cadillac in Breckenridge. Also, one thing to pass along before we get started, for you YouTubers, please hit the subscribe button. Also, after that, hit the little bell so you'll get notifications anytime that we come up with new video podcasts here at Big Country Preps. You'll be notified of it. So please hit the subscribe button, won't you please? We appreciate it.
All right, with that, let's go ahead and jump in. We'll start. We're going to talk a little bit of Sweetwater football and talk a lot with Coach Lucas here in a little bit. But let's start with last week, where we were. You obviously a Big Country Preps game of the week. Jim Ned and Wall turned out to be the type of competitive game we expected, although took kind of an interesting path to get there. That wasn't necessarily the game we expected, but it kind of had the finish we kind of thought it would.
It was as competitive as we thought it was going to be, but it took a strange route to get there, because it could have very easily been a lopsided win for Jim Ned the way they were looking. They were driving for what would have been a 21-0 lead in the third quarter and ended up fumbling inside the 5-yard line. It was caught out of the air by a Wall football player and returned 98 yards for a score. So we had basically a 14-point turnaround. Instead of being 21-0 Ned, it was 14-7, and suddenly we had a great ball game on our hands. I mean, Wall had already made its defensive adjustments and started slowing that Jim Ned offense down. Plus, Beasley, the kid, the starting quarterback of Jim Ned, suffered an injury and was taken out, so that slowed them down as well. And before you know it, it came right down to the wire. And Wall, with a minute and a half left, did a 65-yard touchdown pass to tie things up. And it sent it into overtime, and Jim Ned had to basically escape at that point with a 17-14 win. Great game, but it just was an unorthodox route to take to get there.
Yeah, two very good football teams. Those are two I think we both expect to play a long time here in the playoffs here in a couple of weeks. One game that we were at as well, Brandon McAuliffe, he was at Merkel for Clyde Merkel, and it was about the opposite of yours. You had a kind of a low-scoring defensive affair. His was a 69-57 Clyde win over Merkel, in which both teams just put on a show offensively. So that was a fun one as well. And then I was obviously at Midland Legacy Abilene High game at Shotwell Stadium, and that was kind of the opposite of your game, in that for a lot of that game, it was the game we expected, and the final score was not what we expected. Abilene High lost that one 48-17, but the final score in that one really was very deceiving. It was a one-score game. Early in the third quarter, Abilene High goes and drives down the first drive of the third quarter to go cut it the deficit to about 4. And then, unfortunately, from that point, it just kind of unraveled a little bit, and they get the final 27 points of the game. But it was an interesting game because Abilene High really moved the ball up and down the football field the entire game. They had over 450 yards of total offense, passed the ball exceptionally well, had over 300 yards passing. The big problem was they only came away with 3 points total in 3 trips to the red zone, and they had 3 turnovers on the Legacy side of the field. And if you do that against a team like Legacy, you're gonna get beat. This Legacy offense is just so dang good. They got a D1 quarterback in Marcus Davila, who is just an unbelievable player. He's built like a tight end and throws like a college quarterback. But I remember talking to Coach Fulton before the week. He was telling me, I'm glad that kid's a senior. I think he's seen about enough of him the last few years because they've played in non-district basically every year since he's been there. So, but I think that's a game where the final score got away from Abilene High. There are going to be a lot of things on film they can watch and improve on. But I think that'll be ultimately a game that makes both those teams better, and that's kind of what you want in non-district. One more real quick thing before we move forward and talk a little bit about some area stuff. The other two locals, Abilene High and Cooper and Wiley, both got their first wins. So Cooper had a big high scoring win over San Angelo Central, in which running back Daniel Bray had a school record 366 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns, also a school record. So that was a big win for them. And then Wiley uh, took down Lubbock Cooper, which is a bit of an upset. They went on the road, forced 3 turnovers, turned all 3 into defensive scores to win that one 35-14. And the interesting thing there, Wiley was outgained about 225 to something like 225 to 15 in the first half. Just because A, they didn't have a whole lot of plays, and B, they didn't do much with the ball when they did. And so to stay in the game, to only be down 28-20 was pretty remarkable. And then obviously they found their offense in the second half and pulled out a really gutty win. So a good week for Cooper and Wiley. Both really needed those wins, and they went out and got them.
All right, and with that, let's take a quick look at what we're going to be doing this week. Dan, you got a fun matchup on the road. You're going up to Stephenville to watch Wiley and Stephenville. I'm looking. I mean, on paper, people are saying maybe that's not going to be such a great matchup. I think it is. Wiley's improving, and every game that Stephenville has played this year thus far has been exciting.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game between two growing, improving teams. This Wiley team is not as good yet as they will be by the end of the season. But it's a good
Right.
a bunch of young guys that are kind of figuring things out on the fly, and you can see improvement every week. The win at Lubbock Cooper, that was a really good win. Cooper, by the end of the season, Cooper's going to be a playoff team at the 5A D1 level. So to go on the road and get that one was a big one for Wiley, especially the way they did it. To really have to overcome some adversity. I think that was a big moment for this Wiley team. And then you're right, Stephenville. Every game they've played has been close. So I think you're going to have a really competitive game into the fourth quarter. It's going to be another one where both teams are going to get better from this game. This is going to be a big challenge for the Wiley defense because the Stephenville offense is always potent, and the same is true this year. And I think we're starting to see the Wiley offense kind of find its identity a little bit, particularly in the second halves. They've been really much better in the second halves than they have been early in these games. If they can get off to a fast start, it should be a really good game through 4 quarters. But I'm excited about that trip to Stephenville. This series has yielded a lot of fun games over the years, and I expect this one to be no different. And it's looking like you'll have a fun one as well for the Big Country Preps game of the week this week, heading out to Comanche to watch them play a really good Toller team. These are two teams that have played exceptionally well to start the season. Toller had their first setback last week against a quality private school out of the Dallas area, but we know how good Toller is. We've seen what they've done to some of our area teams over the last couple of years. And then Comanche, good gosh, offensively, they are off to quite a start. So that should be a fun game as well.
2 question marks. I mean, Sawyer Wilkerson's got a sore ankle, so he's questionable for that ball game. But they still got, and he missed a lot of that game last week and gets early, most of it, and they still got a tremendous push and beat early 57-0. So whether or not he plays, we'll see. But the question is, it's going to be a great matchup up front. Comanche's offensive line against that Toller defensive front 7. Now, Toller's coming off a big loss. They lost to Dallas Christian School, which is a monstrous private school. They went into that game 26-point dogs, 26-point underdogs. So I totally discount that loss. They're 2-1. This is a very, very good, very powerful 2A team. They're going to bring it Friday night, and we're going to have us a good ball game out there, no doubt about it.
You mentioned what I think the matchup to watch is that matchup up front. Obviously, without Wilkerson last week, Colt Schwartner basically put up Sawyer Wilkerson numbers with well over 200 yards rushing. And then obviously, maybe one of the most underrated players in the entire big country, just because he shares the backfield with Sawyer Wilkerson, is quarterback Layden Welch, who's having another good year. And then Kyler Beatty's a future D1 athlete at the receiver position too. So I'm excited about this matchup. We know how good Toller is. I think we have a pretty good idea how this Comanche team is. I expect a good, fun game.
All right. And with that, it's just about time to bring on Coach Russell Lucas, who has been one of our favorites for years. We've gotten along very well with him. He's always very helpful, all the way back through his first couple of years out at Hamlin. And He is now with the Sweetwater Mustangs. They are now 3-0, one of the big surprises in the big country. And he is just about ready to speak with us. You all set to talk to him?
Yep. Well, he's ready to go. We're ready to go. Let's go ahead and get him on.
And joining us now, Sweetwater head football coach Russell Lucas. Coach, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
All right, Coach, 3-0, and I don't think a lot of people in the big country expected that from this very young Sweetwater team that you've got. But here we are, 3-0. Tell us about it. What have been the big keys to this start?
Well, I think it all started back in the offseason. Last year when we finished football season, we were all pretty miserable, coaches and kids alike. We didn't want to have to experience that again. And a lot of that's, we spent a lot of time in the weight room and on the track and doing a lot of physical things. But I think the biggest thing that we did was we went through a commitment curriculum with our entire athletic program, boys and girls and everybody, and just felt like that if we didn't get that right, it didn't really matter what plays we called or what off season we did. We had to get, the commitment from the kids and the coaches to all be equal. We all need to be speaking the same language as far as what did it mean to be committed? What did that look like? And I think once we got that clearly defined with everybody, we started holding everybody accountable to that standard, and everybody knew what the standard was. I think we just began to see exponential growth in our kids, both physically and also with their character.
And Evan mentioned it that he thought this was one of the big surprises in the area so far. Was this something y'all expected on campus, the players, coaches, or have even y'all been surprised by what y'all been able to do so far?
The term that we were using at the beginning of the year was cautiously optimistic. We felt like we had some kids that had grown up. We felt like we had some really talented young kids that had some ability, but most of them had not done that on a Friday night, and so until they can look really good in shorts and t-shirt, or they can look pretty good out there going against each other. But until you see them on the field going against varsity competition, you're just not really sure how that's going to work out. And so we've been very pleasantly surprised. I think we all thought this could happen, but I'd be lying to you if I said we knew it was going to happen.
Coach, everybody knows that Sweetwater loves its football. They've got to be ecstatic with the 3-0 start. You got to be hearing a lot of good things around town.
Yeah, and we have to be careful with that with our kids. We've talked to them about that. Everybody you see is going to tell you how great things are, and it is good. I mean, we're proud of our kids, and we're excited the success we're having. But you're never satisfied. You can't get comfortable. But it is pleasant to be able to go places and people be excited about football. You're right, Sweetwater's. That's one of the reasons that I was very fortunate to coach in Hamlin, where football is a big deal, and now Sweetwater. It's just the same way, where football is a big part of this community, and to be able to be in the community when things are going well is really cool.
And Coach, I've got a freshman quarterback doing some special things. A lot of sophomores on the field contributing. So really a good young group that's really making a splash. Just from the outside looking in, looks like the future looks really bright. You got a really nice kind of young nucleus kind of helping lead the way. Just what would kind of what would your take be just on that group and kind of what they've done so far?
Well, we are excited about that group, I'm always cautious about that because so many people, when they ask us about our team, they ask about that youth, and I sure don't want to discount the job that our upperclassmen are doing. That we got great seniors and juniors that are leading our team. But it is special to have that many young kids on your team, and those older kids trust them. They've watched them perform. They've seen the preparation that they put in, and that's pretty cool to see those kids blend together like that. It is exciting for the future when you think about, offensively, we don't have a single senior on the offensive line, and out of all the skill positions, there's only 2 seniors in that group, and so. You have to be careful, or you get caught looking at that. What's next year going to be like? What's the next year going to look like? But we want to live right where our feet are right now, but we are proud of the progress they've made and at the level that they're playing. It's pretty remarkable to have that many young kids and to be able to execute like we have.
And one thing that Evan and I were talking about that's been kind of interesting about that program is the Sweetwater fans have really kind of shown themselves to be among the area's most patient. You look at what that group with Coach Mobley did a while back, McGehee. They kind of give you time to build with these young groups. They've kind of always had kind of a nucleus come in and kind of build with it. Just what has kind of been your take on that, and being allowed to have a down season so long as you're building during that time?
Yeah, we're very fortunate. That people here. anytime you coach in a smaller school, that there's the talent's going to cycle. There's going to be ups and downs in talent, class size, all those kind of things. And I think people in Sweetwater realize that, and that's we're very fortunate that they do see that. I think they also were aware of the things that we were doing for our kids, some of the programs that we were doing to try to make them better Mustangs, just make them better people. And when people and we try to be in the community and talk about all those things that we were doing for our kids, and when they know that you're trying to make them better people, and also they know that we're also working really hard. They know the hours that we put in, and if they drive by and see the work that the kids are putting in, or if they have any relatives on the team, they know what kind of work's being put in. So I think they were aware, and it's nice to be in that community. Now, I do remember we were my first year here, we were coming off the field at halftime against Bernie. We just played Stephenville and Bernie. It was halftime, and Bernie was killing us. And I hear some guy yell out of the stands, "Don't unpack your bags." Okay, all right, but that's not the majority of folks for sure.
Coach, tell us about jumping from 2A to 4A. How much of your system is the exact same stuff that you ran at Hamlin? How much of it have you changed? Is it pretty much the same stuff, or how many things have you changed?
As far as offense and defense, we're not doing a whole lot different than what we did there. It's very, very similar. It's been an adjustment for me because I was in Hamlin so long. I'd been there once before. I had such great relationships with parents and kids because of the familiarity with all of them. That's a little more difficult to do here just because of the number of people that we have. We have junior high kids. I'll go to junior high practice, and I don't know, probably 75% of the kids on the team, I don't even know their name. I wouldn't know their parents if they, walked up to me right then. So it's a little bit more of a challenge to coach kids the way I coached them in Hamlin because of that lack of relationship with parents and kids. And so it just takes a little longer to build that. We have to wait almost till they get to the high school. In Hamlin, I was very involved in every junior high practice because we were all there. We all coached junior high. We all coached high school. And it's just a little different here. Also the number of coaches that we have. That's been the adjustment for me. As far as the X's and O's of football, we always grow and expand. But I promise you that group of kids that we've had, well, actually, I have a couple of them on our staff, and they're very familiar with what we're doing because it's just not that much different.
Coach, no matter what level you coach at, there's always fires to put out. You had to put out fires at 2A, and are there twice as many fires to put out at 4A? Did you have to hire a fire department to help you out, or?
Yeah, I tell people all the time that I have to get my work done before 8 o'clock in the morning. I get up pretty early in the morning and do some reading and get to the office early and try to get work done because once it gets 8 o'clock and everybody gets to school, there is a lot of playing firemen that you have to do. There's just so many more things involved, so many moving parts. I'm very fortunate to have a great staff that they take a lot of that off of me. They don't bring it to me unless it is something that needs to be dealt with. I'm fortunate here. I don't have to teach any classes, and so I have that time to be able to help coaches and help kids. I also have a secretary that helps me stay straight, and so there are more challenges, but there are also more resources. So it's all relative. There's good people everywhere, but people are messy, and there's always going to be some challenges no matter where you're at.
Coach, we do those district roundups and recaps every week in District 3, 4A, D2's one of my favorite to follow. I'm sure I'm not coaching in it, but when you look at that district, everybody in it's competitive. Everybody in it probably improved over the team they put on the field last year. On one hand, it should make for a whole lot of really fun, intense football. On the other hand, there's probably going to be a good team left out. Just kind of what's your take on that district before you get into it?
Yeah, we feel like we were going to be better because we had a lot of the same people coming back, but that's the same story across the board for our district. It's going to be a challenge every week. Snyder didn't give up a point until this past week. Graham's blowing the top out of their offense, and Hershey's going to be so athletic. They've been that way. And then Greenwood. They've played a really tough schedule up to this point, and so I know they're going to be battle tested, and they're very competitive out there, always have been. So we know that district race is going to be a challenge. Every Friday night, you'll have to have your A game for sure.
Coach, you're a guy who's been at this a while now, a guy that's a high energy guy. Just how'd you kind of describe your energy level now, and how much does it help to have you? I think you have kind of a big country all-star staff, a lot of guys on that staff that if you've been around for a while, you're familiar with. Just how much does that maybe help kind of keep your energy level up, when you are, going year after year?
Yeah, I'm to the point that I could retire, and I don't have any desire to do that. I enjoy coming to work every day. A radio station guy asked me this morning. I was there doing our roundup, and he asked me that, how long are you going to be here, Coach? And I said, well, I honestly, I hope this is my last job. I hope I don't have another job. I just want to quit before they ask me to. And but if something happened to my staff, that would be what would cause me to think those thoughts, because they do make my job really easy. I have an awesome staff. I have some young coaches. I have some veteran coaches, and they're solid men. They love kids. They love football, and they love whatever other sports that they're coaching. It makes it really easy for me to go to work every day.
Coach, if you retire and you came very close to winning a state championship there at Hamlin, if you retire without a state championship, are you gonna be cool with that?
Well, you better win one of those when you have the opportunity, because they're never guaranteed. It is hard. I have some regrets from that game, things that I wish that I'd have done different. I wish our team would have done different. And that's always, you think about that. I know a lot of good coaches that finished their career and never won one. I've known some good coaches that never even played in one. So I feel like I've been very blessed in the things that I've been able to be a part of, with the teams I've been a part of and the staffs I've been a part of. So I don't think so. I would love to win one. It's obviously a career goal. But I think if you look at the whole thing and look at the kids you impacted and the families you gotten to know over the time, that'll probably be what more I measure on.
There are worse crimes to commit than not winning a Texas State championship in
Yeah,
football.
no doubt.
That's well, Coach, we appreciate your time. Thank you for joining us. And as always, we'll be in touch with you and keeping an eye on you. Best luck the rest of the way.
Thanks, guys.
And that was Sweetwater head football coach Russell Lucas. Dan, I'm telling you, you got a freshman quarterback. You've got a lot of talent in the sophomore class. They're set as long as they take care of business and get to the gym and do their weightlifting and do their work. 2 years from now, Sweetwater is going to be very, very good.
Yeah, I agree. You've got the talent there. You've got a proven coach in Coach Lucas, who's obviously done a tremendous job at Hamlin and now at Sweetwater. I think the future is very bright for the Sweetwater team. It's been a pretty remarkable offensive turnaround just so far, looking at the points they're putting up. And then you look at the classes of the kids that are doing it, and you can't help but get excited about Sweetwater's future. But it was fun talking to Coach Lucas. I'm glad we were able to get him on, and I look forward to seeing what the Sweetwater team has in store for the rest of the season. Obviously, a very tough district, but I think this team has an opportunity to challenge for a playoff spot, which would be a big step forward after a tough year last year.
They're a threat for anybody with me. As many points as they're putting up, and then you have to factor in how tough they are. With the Mustang Bowl getting behind them. It's a tough place to play. You just have the feeling they're gonna win a game or two in that district, no matter how tough it is. It's going to be interesting to watch. Would not be surprised to see them playing in postseason at all.
Yeah, I'm with you. And I think the one thing you're starting to see is they're starting to build a little momentum as well. I mean, this team's starting to believe and have gained some confidence as they kind of rack up these wins too. So it's gonna be fun to see how this season plays out, because that's gonna be one of my favorite districts, I think, to pay attention to, just because it's so competitive.
All right, and with that, it's time to wrap up the Big Country Preps Wednesday night podcast. But before we do that, we want to remind you that we've got 3 separate subscription packages here at Big Country Preps. We've got a monthly for $5 a month. We've got a semi-annual 6-month subscription where we knock that price down to $4 a month. And then we've got an annual 12-month subscription where we knock that price down to $3 a month. And that's $36 for a full year of Big Country High School athletic coverage.
We'd also like to remind you that if you see a photo you like in any one of our galleries, those are available for purchase. We have photo downloads available for $7, as well as some keepsakes and prints. So make sure you check those out. As you're scrolling through the site, you'll notice pretty quickly that we take a lot of photos from these games we're at, and we try to get to a whole lot of games. So that's something we are very proud of and something we really enjoy doing here at BigCountryPreps.com.
All big country, all high school, all the time. Welcome home.